All right, class, let's get started on this week's assignment. All right, we're looking here at um, a decision tree. And so we all understand how decision trees or decisions are made. And sometimes we don't put them into a decision tree um, uh, actual. So we actually look at it and say, hey, I decided to get my MBA. Why did I get an MBA? Because I believe that if I get an MBA, that I will make more money. And so you decided to go get an MBA over getting a master's in another subject. Maybe you got the MBA because you felt that it will give you an increase in the pay. Well, businesses are no different, but we're going to mark these with a probability. And so earlier in the chapters, we look at probability as the ability to have a chance to get something. So here is that we have a probability of a upturn in the market to be 35, 40% for a stable market, and 25% for the market downturn. And we're going to look here and say, what can we do to make the most amount of money based off of these criteria? And so understanding that is really the alternative to understanding how to do decision trees. Saying, hey, best case scenario, I can make this much money. If the market isn't as good as it should be, I should make this amount of money. And I'm going to look at how I'm going to make these decision trees. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make the decision trees. If you haven't, please take the time to go ahead and read this and look at it and read the chapter where the decision trees are so that you can understand how to create this. Okay, so here's the decision tree that I got from the previous chapter. And what we're looking here as three different decisions. And the decision tree is first categorized with a single node or a decision node with a square. We have to make one. We have to either build a new plant, expand the old plant, or do nothing. And we characterize that by a chance. Okay, the chances are done with a circle, if you can see here. And so that tells us that there is a chance of probability to happen. Upturn, stable, downturn. This decision tree is very simple. It's not that complex. But in here is that we have the probabilities. So let's go ahead and just look here and say, okay, how is this probabilities? If it's upturn, there's a 35%. A stable is 40%. And if it's a downturn, it's 25%. Well, let's look at that and see, okay, how much is this going to be worth? Okay, so let's go now and say, okay, and this triangle shows us that there's no more decisions. Once that's done, then it's over. So we have our first one here, which is our square, and these matter. The expressions of or the symbols do matter. It's the single node that we're going to have to do it or a decision, and then it has to go to a chance, which has a probability of happening, and then the triangle represents the endpoint in the decision. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll just look at this and go back to where we're going to here, and we're going to look at the cost or the profit of this to build it based off of these probabilities. Okay, so I put this decision in here, and the chance node in here is that we got in here is an upturn, stable, downturn. So in an upturn, what we did was that we looked here and saw that it was 690,000. We had a 35% chance. Then we look here and we saw that there was a 40% chance here in the stable that we would lose negative 130,000. And then we had a downturn of 150,000, 25%. These numbers, if in real life, I would probably just kind of take the average of these and say that they were a 65% chance that we would lose money. But there was a 35% chance that we would make 690,000 if the economy did well. So taking here and looking at this, I took it and I multiplied this number. That's all I did was I took the 690,000 and I multiplied it by the probability 35%. And it came to 241,000. And then I did the same thing with the negative numbers, and I came out that I would have a positive 152,000. And looking at that and seeing how that is supposed to happen is that I look at it and I have a pretty good probability that I'm going to, and I always want to make sure that I sum this too. I just saw a little thing that I wanted to go over first. And it should always equal to 1 because we should always have 100% probability of something happening. But if I look here and I say here, I can say that I have a 65% chance that I will lose some money. Is it worth me losing 52,000 or 37,500? And that's the chance that you're taking so that you can earn that 690,000. And you would want to do this for each of the decision points that we're making and the different chances. And then you would want to choose which one is higher. And that's how we're going to be doing the max and mini creation of it, is that you'll see which one has a chance of a higher probability. Expanding the old plant looks a little bit like a better opportunity, maybe because of the fact that if the market stays stable or the market downturns, there's less of a probability of losing money, but you still have a pretty good income. And doing nothing might be somewhat up there too, because in a stable market it would be 0. Market downturn 20 and 50,000, but you'll be losing these. So what you want to do is, after you created each of the different decision trees, you want to say which one is the best alternative and take in some consideration and risk, and then which option should be chosen and which one you think it is. Later you discover that it's changed, and I showed you how to do that. So those probabilities will change as well. So I need you to look at those and say that only a 10% probability of markup, 65% of a probability in the stable market, and 65% probability of the market downturn. That's going to definitely play an important role. But at the same time, we would also look at it and say, maybe I can build a new plant and expand an old plant, and then that's going to set me up in the future to have tremendous years, even though the market did take a downturn. But we have to look at those different understandings of this decision tree analysis. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always let me know. I'm here to help.